Good morning and a very, very big welcome to the first in our series of NM Business webinars for this year. So I'm really delighted to see everyone attending. We've got a few more participants who are just waiting to join. So we will start in the next couple of minutes and everything will be explained. For those of you, so we'll do introductions to all the speakers. So my name is Jeff Baxter. I'm part of Smart Society, and we deliver NN Business on behalf of Northamptonshire Council. And so the opportunity that we'll talk about some of the mentoring that is available if you're a high street business. We'll talk about the events which are available to all businesses in Northamptonshire, and we'll also talk a little bit about the website and what you can do, how you can get any sorts of support and get in contact with us as well. And we can, if we can't support you, we can certainly navigate you to other really good support options that are available locally and also nationally. So you can definitely do that. So this is a Zoom webinar. If you've not been part of a Zoom webinar before, then there's lots of buttons on the bottom, and one of them is a Q&A. So the Q&A is a way of being able to add questions in there. You can add questions in, and we will either respond to them in line, and everyone will be able to see that, or alternatively, what we'll do is we're going to run a Q&A session towards the end of the workshop. So if you've got any questions, just put them in the Q&A section, and then we'll pick them up and we can discuss them as necessary. So that should be really good. Okay, so 10:05 now. So thank you very much indeed for joining. I'd like to say a very big welcome to everyone that's joined. This is a webinar that is part of the NN Business Programme that's supported by Northamptonshire Council, and it's part of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So it's a free service to businesses in Northamptonshire. It's part of the overall NN Business Programme, which this year is supporting high street businesses. So if you are a high street business owner, then you can apply to get mentoring support, and that mentoring support can look to help you in all areas. But certainly what we're seeing is the businesses that have applied for that are really looking at how they can grow their business, how they can engage with their customer base on social media, and how they can really look to to compete in what is probably one of the most challenging markets out there on the high street. So that's a really great option, and that's fully funded. So it's completely free for any businesses that are successfully registered for that. We'll also let you know about any events. If you have come through this event on Eventbrite, which you will almost certainly have done, please make sure that you follow the NN Business Eventbrite channel. That will then notify you about any events, and we've got some really exciting events coming up, not just in this area, but in areas around things like customer loyalty, which is a key part of the marketing mix for high street businesses and for retailers. So really good stuff in there, really relevant, really kind of important for businesses to be thinking about that. But I think let's focus in on the here and now. Let's focus in on the workshop that we've got today. I think it's fair to say, and as a business owner myself, running a business is pretty stressful, and it's very different to having a job, because not only do you have to be an expert in lots of different things, including things that you aren't necessarily that comfortable doing. So for myself, social media is an area which I don't naturally sort of embrace or kind of get involved in, but it's an area that you need to do that as a business owner. And so therefore running a business will have stresses, and if you think about what's happened in the last couple of years, we are in a really tough position as business owners, particularly on the high street. The high street's facing some really big challenges, not just from competition from the online retail space, but also challenges around it becoming much more expensive to employ staff. So looking at how national insurance has gone up, looking at how the cost of living has gone up, which has pushed up wages. So that's meaning that lots and lots of business owners out there are having to take a more operational role within their business, because naturally just the costs associated with it are a real challenge. So what that means is that running the business, has its stresses and strains. So who I'd like, or I would like to introduce Rich Liverman of Richer Solutions. So Rich is a really experienced business owner, really experienced retailer, really experienced marketeer, who now operates advising businesses and helping them to develop not just their branding, their marketing, but also really how to kind of manage their business in a sustainable way. And managing a business in a sustainable way is also about managing yourself and about making sure that you are in a position to do that. So I will now hand over to Rich. I'm going to get Rich to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about him, about himself. He'll then do his presentation, and then at the end we'll run a Q&A session and talk through that. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Richard.
Thank you, Jeff, for that warm introduction. Now you've said that about your social media, I immediately wanted to go and investigate, but resisted the temptation. I'm going to take you through a presentation today that's all around business therapy and our interpretation of this and how it can help you in your business. And let me just load this up here on the big screen. Continue to share. That should all be clear on your screens. Jeff, can you see that? Thumbs up. Brilliant. It's a good start. Okay, the agenda today, a big warm welcome from Jeff and from myself. What is business therapy? And we'll talk about how it is and what it is, and we'll do a Q&A in the next steps. And for me, business therapy works in three ways. It works in a mirror. So we hold up a mirror to your business to look at where you are now and where are the problems, the solutions, and all of those kind of things. Then if you do this on the long term, we do the fire starter, which is those ideas to help you cut through the fog and then create a blueprint. But we're not going to do all that today. What I thought we'd do on a Tuesday morning is get into the fog. But first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Richard. I live in Northamptonshire, and I've had a business here for 4.5 years, Richer Solutions. And this is a little bit about kind of my life and what I do. I love travel, food, music, my family. I have an unhealthy taste for sport, which seems to make me miserable most weekends. I've been on all kinds of adventures this year, including trips to Downing Street, and been nominated for some awards as well. And this will give you just an idea as to who I am, and also introduce you to my dog, Callie, which is way more interesting than I am. I'm sure you'll hear it later when the postman knocks in the next half an hour. My career, I'm very, very lucky. I've worked on some incredible retailers, Sainsbury's, Tesco, Morrison's, but I've also worked on lots and lots of brands. And for me, what's really interesting when you work on large brands is it helps you with your thinking and putting some of what they do well into our smaller businesses. And being based in Northamptonshire, I'm really, really proud to see some of the gems that are in the county that with a little bit of great storytelling, hopefully will attract more customers to them. So what's it like working with me? I'm going to put all of my social media in the chat later on, so please do get in contact. I've got 99 Google reviews, which is very exciting. I'm hoping for number 100 in the next couple of weeks. And people seem to say nice things about me. And my job is to really build on my mantra of don't be boring and help businesses be amazing. My job's to help you flourish, and hopefully we can do that in the session today. So what is business therapy? It's an idea that came to me, funnily enough, from a couple of reviews I had from people. And what they were saying was, Richard, working with you is like therapy for your business. So I started exploring, what is this? And yes, I have a comfy couch and a nice carpet, but there's also a little bit where I think, okay, how does this work for business owners? And it's about a mixture of coaching, mentoring, and consultancy, a blend of all of them. It's a safe space. And I think when you're working with a coach or a consultant, you need that safe space to help you with your thinking. How can you reframe where you are? How can you rediscover what really matters in your business? And then it's about having a structured approach, because sometimes we get into this fog, and we talked earlier about fog busting. Sometimes when we have our own business, we get into this whole situation where everything can become quite murky and foggy. And actually, what we need to do with this session and with your businesses is to shine a light and try and disperse some of that. And I've always built this to be ideal for purpose-driven businesses, but also work with neurodivergent business owners. And there's a lot of off-the-shelf advice, which is great and has some value, but I like to put a bit of insight into it as well. So when you do business therapy, I'm always interested, when you work with somebody, what are the results you're looking for? And some of it is that clarity of direction. How can you cut through all the noise? And as Jeff pointed out in his introduction, there's a lot of noise out there at the moment. How can you get focused on what you need to do? How can you improve your decision making? How can you have sharper messaging and positioning so people can really understand and articulate what it is you do? And one of the things that we often hear from business owners all across the UK is, how can you get that relief from overwhelm? You know, there's all of that complexity. When you're a business owner, you have all of these different things to juggle. How can you untangle some of that complexity? And how can you just do what you're great at? And one of the things that I like as a result of business therapy is that renewed confidence and motivation. And that, because you have that, then you can move forward. And what's really interesting, you often hear people talk about confidence in the economy or confidence in your business. And it's one of those things that, as a business owner, you can, these are all things that you can influence. And all of these things are not going to cost you a huge amount of money. They're going to cost you a little bit of time, but can make a real difference to you. So, fog busting. It does sound a bit like ghost busting, but stick with me. Where are you now? So, 3 questions for you to have a little think about. What's happening in your business right now? What's working and what's not working? What's causing stress, confusion, or procrastination? And I was just joking this morning, I need to pay my tax this morning, and that has been heavily procrastinated this month. But there is that little bit where, in order to move your business forward, you need to really understand where you are today. So one of the things that we'll make sure after the presentation, we're going to send these slides to you, because there's a lot of practical exercises in here that you can do yourself. And by doing this, it will help you understand where you are now and where you need to go. So what's happening in your business right now, what's working, and what's causing stress? The middle point, what feels unclear? What are you overthinking, second guessing, or spinning plates? And what decisions have been avoided? And I think as a business, we always see those things where there's that uncertainty, and sometimes it slows you down. So one of the questions that I really want to understand is, what's causing the fog in your business? The end point. So we know where we are now. We can see the fog. The end point is, where do you want to be in 3 to 6 months? What makes you feel calm, proud, or in control again? And I started asking myself these questions last night because I was reading the presentation and practicing it. So I had a little stab at this. In the next 3 to 6 months, I want to build relationships with some of my key clients, some of my newer clients, but also some of my existing clients. How can I really build those relationships to make them really strong? And how can I drive sales? And what makes me calm and proud? Well, I've already mentioned my reviews. To me, that's something that I can read them and take great pride in that. But also, when I ask people, how did you find my business? How did you find Richer Solutions? And often people will say to me, oh, this person recommended you, so you need to work with Rich. And I take that as such a compliment because it means that one, I've done a great job with the existing client and that they've also shared me with somebody else. And when somebody shares you, for me, that's like they become an ambassador for you. And there's that little bit where I think about those things that make me feel really calm, but also bring me a great deal of pride. And there's that little bit where by understanding it and writing it down, I now have a clear plan of what I want to do. And don't get me wrong, I have other objectives for my business, but just thinking about these things really challenge me. So to everybody listening in, I'm going to give you 30 seconds now just to have a little stab at this. What do you want the next 3 to 6 months to look like? And what makes you feel calm, proud, or in control again? And I think it's really important because if you understand what these things are, you'll go and do them again. So feel free right now just to write down what it is you want the next 3 to 6 months to look like and what makes you feel calm, proud, or in control. And what's really interesting, when you come back and read them, it's quite satisfying. And I think as a business owner, we set the rules. We don't work for the people, we set the rules. So there's that little bit, how can we help ourselves? And how can we really understand what it is that we're good at, what we want to do? And this is a really, really neat way of achieving this. Okay, things that cause the fog. And if you're reading this, I'm sure there'll be a few of you just nodding away. Things that cause fog, time drains. For me, one of my biggest time drains is invoicing. Just drives me mad, but I know I need to do it. Mental overload. We've already talked about overwhelm. This is something that I hear so often with high street businesses, but also like with small businesses as well, that absolute feeling of overwhelm. Unclear offers or messaging. Some people are really good at social media, other people dislike it. Sometimes people come into the store and don't really understand what it is you stand for, or they don't understand the offers that you've got. Is it 20% off that price, or have you already marked it down? I put wobbly revenue because it made me smile when I was writing it out. But wobbly revenue is cash flow. And I think there are certain months where, especially high street businesses, January can be a horror of a month. And that wobbly revenue can cause us a little bit of fog and concern. No idea what to say online. This is a real problem for lots and lots of small businesses and high street businesses. And I was working with somebody in Desborough yesterday, and we were talking about what to say online. And what's amazing is you've got AI as this incredible tool that can help you, but it's only as good as the input that you put into it. But no idea what to say online is something that causes a lot of people a lot of what I call fog. Working alone too much. Hey, we all know what it's like. We are our best friends and our own worst enemies. And I think when we spend so much time, and obviously we know about the pressures of staffing at the moment, but working alone a lot can affect our mental health. I mean, sometimes get stuck in our own heads. So these are things that can cause a lot of problems. And missing structure or accountability. When I first started my career, I worked for Sainsbury's, and we would have lots of objectives and accountability. When you work for yourself, you're in charge of your accountability. And that lack of structure sometimes appeals to people. It often happens when you work for yourself, but you need that structure in order to deliver. So these are all things here that cause fog in your business. Now, if you're thinking about this, there might be a couple of things on here that you want to add to this. And there might be a couple of things where you go, well, actually, what causes fog for me is, I don't know, Brian, the Saturday worker who always turns up late, or whatever it is. We know what the fog makers are. What's really interesting is once you've identified them in your business and you recognize them, we can start finding ways to cut through. So, one of my favorite exercises, and this is a beautiful beauticians in Wellingborough, where they did my eyebrows last year, as well as me giving them some advice on business. They gave me a mirror. And the mirror exercise is like a mini SWOT. So we're going to do the mini SWOT and the Johari window. We're not going to do the marketing review today because we're going to run out of time. But the idea of the mirror SWOT is to hold up a mirror to you and look at where you are now, why you're there, and what's going on. So there's a little bit of interactivity here. What I'd like you to do, pen and paper out, because we're going to have a look at where you are right now. And this is an activity that I do with lots and lots of my clients. And we're going to start off with your strengths. What do you do well? What are your advantages? So I want to know, what makes your business stand out? What are you known for or praised for? Which resources, skills, or processes are your biggest assets? Now, the reason we do this exercise is we want to reflect again on what you're proud of and what you should leverage more. So what makes your business stand out? And I think from a high street perspective, what are those unique selling points? What do people say that you're great for? What are you known for? What are you praised for? Because when we know this is what we're going to share with other people. This is what we're going to build on. And so often as business owners, we focus on the negatives. Well, actually, I want you to share your strengths. And there's a brilliant coffee shop in a place called Rawn's. They do super coffee and cake, but they also sell records in there. And what I really like about it is that the place has got lots of personality. So they've got great coffee, great personality, depends on your music taste, but I quite like it. And I was saying to them with their social media, go share what you're good at. Go share the fact that you make your cakes from scratch. Go share that you've got Primal Scream's Screamadelica 20th anniversary edition vinyl. Go share these magic things. But if you don't know what they are, then you really need to find this. So your strengths, what makes you stand out? What are you known for? And what are your biggest assets? What I want you to think about is, what are they and how you can share it. Your weaknesses, we had to do this. And what I want to know is, what holds you back or needs improvement? Where do you consistently fall short? Are there customer complaints or team frustrations? Are there gaps in your resources, systems, or skills? Now, the reason we do this part of the exercise, I don't want to focus too much on this, but I want to acknowledge it. I want to see your blind spots or inefficiencies. And there's a reason for this. If you're getting lots of customer complaints on a Saturday because the service is not great, then just do some training and make it better. And for me, it's about turning weaknesses around. But if you don't know what they are, then they're just going to eat at your business slowly and horribly. So where do you fall short? Where are your customer frustrations or team frustrations? Because your team will tell you what you do well and not well. And are there any gaps? And again, we're going to send these slides out so you can do this in person, and you can do this in your own businesses. And what you'll find that by doing these exercises, it gets you thinking, and then you can start looking at the solutions for it. Welcome to Business Therapy. Right, the next part, opportunities. Are there trends you can capitalize on? And I don't just mean those trends that we see on social media, although I'm very amused because everybody's talking about the Jet2 advert on Instagram at the moment. But are there other trends that you can capitalize on? There was a big rush for selfie rings about 12 months ago. Did you take advantage of that? Could you expand your offering or reach new customers? Are your competitors missing something that you could offer? Now, the idea of doing this part of the exercise is we highlight all of those untapped potential or open doors you may not be seeing. So what I really want you to think about, what are those opportunities that you can take advantage of? And again, we'll send these slides out so you can write your own things on there. And just for perspective, I've done this with my own business. And one of the things that I've done this year is I've gone out interviewing people. and on camera. And it's been a totally new thing for me to do. And what was also interesting when you go into some of the supermarkets now, they put a large, they're putting cafes and hairdressers and different things in there as a small business. What are the things that you can put in your stores that give people another reason to come? What are those opportunities that everybody else is missing? Threats. These are the external negatives that could affect you. What changes in the market or industry could harm you? Again, are you up to date on your HR policies? Are new competitors entering your space? Are customer needs or expectations shifting? I always think of the example of Nokia and BlackBerry. They didn't evolve quick enough. What are those things? Are your customers saying, well, actually, we don't want this product, but we're really keen on this? And for me, it's about revealing those external risks that you might be underestimating or avoiding. There's certain things that you can't change. You can't change what the government taxation might be, but you can change the things that are happening in the market. You own the business, you can make the decisions. It's only possible when you start to identify these things. Okay, one of my favorite coaching models is called the Johari window. And I've got a whole book of different coaching models here. And this is one of my favorites. And I learned this back in, I don't know, 2003, but it is a really, really helpful way to make you think about your blind spots and what you do well and what you don't do well. And we'll come on to this because it builds on the mirror exercise that we've just done. And the idea is that the more we understand our businesses, the more we understand where we are and where we want to get to, the more we can clear the fog and create a plan that makes our business lives easier. Now, the Johari window is about making invisible barriers visible, is about encouraging feedback and reflection, and it's promoting authenticity and alignment, and it helps you, and the classic phrase, to work on your business, not just in it. And this is what it looks like. And it's a 4-box grid, and you'll see along the top, it says known to self, not known to self, known to others, not known to others. Now, the known to others and known to self, that's the arena. And we'll come on to a more detailed explanation of what that is. But at the moment, you can just see this is the part that you've got real control of. You also have control of the known to self, but not known to others. That's called the facade. Then the bit that I always find really interesting, what are those blind spots? What are those bits that you don't know, but other people know about you? And one of the ways that I like to think about is how can we mitigate this? How can we make this as small as possible? Then the not known to self and not known to others, that's the unknown. And we'll come on to an explanation of that. The open area is what you and your customers and staff agree on. Examples, your friendly service, quick turnaround time. And for me, it's about how do we grow this? How do we grow this zone? How do we communicate it more? So it's similar to your strengths. Like, what are you well known for? You know, and if you think about some of the shops and restaurants and cafes and businesses in Northampton, what have you got a really great reputation for? One of my favorite places to go is in Priors Hall in Corby. And there's a brilliant cafe there. And all their products are homemade. Everything's homemade. And they've got this reputation for stuff being homemade. Their Mars bar rice crispy cake and chocolate fudge cake I highly recommend. But their chicken and avocado sandwich is stunning. Everybody knows that. And it's become one of those things that's gone word of mouth. And I always encourage them, how can you share this more? How can people know that everything in here is handmade? Handmade, homemade. And it is fantastic. The blind spots. We talked about this before. What are those things that you don't know? Is it a poor follow-up? Is it a confusing website? Is it unhelpful staff? And it's about uncovering that. And the only way to do that is to ask. And it's to have those honest conversations. And sometimes the blind spot can be really, really awkward. But unless you deal with it, it's going to grow and grow and grow. And as a business owner, you need to make this small, not big. So the more you can investigate this part of your business, the better. What others don't know about your business. the hidden area, things that you keep to yourself. Now, lots and lots of people talk to me about their business struggles. That's not necessarily something that you might want to bring into the open, but there's all those behind the scenes stuff that you can share. And one of the things that I think we all love on social media is how things are made. Or I've got a confession to make. I love an unboxing. And it was my teenagers that got me started on this on social media. And I did my very own unboxing for my own business when I got some postcards made and sent to me. That behind the scenes stuff, share it. Share you opening a box of new stock. Share, oh, look, the Christmas stuff's arriving. Isn't it fantastic? And bring that enthusiasm to it. You've chosen these products to sell. Share it with people. And I think there's that little bit where, as you shrink this area, you build trust. And we always talk about know, like, and trust as a marketing theory. How do you get more people to know about you, more people to like you, more people to trust you and become your customers? I would go a stage further. Who can be your ambassadors? Who's going to say, you need to go to the cake shop and Prize Hall, everything's homemade. They become ambassadors for you. How can you make it easier for them? So some of those hidden bits, those bits that behind the scenes, and some of those goals that you've got, it could be, right, our goal is to serve 500 customers this weekend. Come and support us. You'd be amazed at how businesses will come out, how people will come out and support your business. If you don't ask, you'll never get. And one of the things that I hope this session's doing is really encouraging you to, put yourselves out there. And this is a great way of doing it. The unknown area. Nobody knows this yet, not even you. And some of those things could be those untapped talents, those untested offers, those future market shifts. And one of the ways that you can help yourself with the unknown area is explore this through coaching. I've got some very reasonable rates available. You can do this through reflection and experimentation. Is there an opportunity to have a Christmas shop all year round? Well, we don't know unless we try. Is there an opportunity to sell products just from Northamptonshire or wherever you are? And I think it's one of those challenges that I put to you. You don't know unless you try. So that's the unknown area. So another exercise, pens and papers at the ready, people. We're going to do a bit of the Johari window. What are you known for? So what's your business known for? And this is similar to the strengths, but again, the reason why I want to know this, or the reason why I want you to know this is what I want you to share with the outside world. What are you known for? What's your reputation for? Is it great service? Is it great products? Worked with an incredible butcher last year in Thrapston called Johnson's, and they're just known because they get everything locally. They're really passionate about what they do, and that's what they're known for. What do you regularly talk about or promote? And if any of you are following me on social media, you'll know that I often go on and on about don't be boring. And I have that reputation for pink shoes. So what are the things you regularly talk about? What is it that you're known for? What service and products are clearly understood that you do? And I think what's really interesting is if you know this, you can talk about it. So for me, it is about what are those products? What are you well known for? And what do you talk about or promote? So hopefully you've written those down, because again, it will help you with your thinking. Known to others, not known to you, not to others. We talked about this, your hidden gold. So the next part of the exercise, what strengths and passions do you keep under the radar? What do you wish people knew about your business but don't talk about enough? So 2 questions. Hopefully you're writing down some ideas on this. So what strengths, passions, or offers do you keep under the radar? What do you wish people knew about your business but don't talk about enough? And I always think as a business, so much of the growth, so much of protecting our businesses are already inside our heads. We just need to put it out there. And these exercises are designed to do this. known to others, not to you, the blind spot. This is a nice exercise to do. What do people say about your business that surprises you? And they can be surprised in a negative way, but also in a good way. And what was really interesting for me, I rebranded 2.5 years ago, and I went to all my clients, what does my business do for you? I did a survey. And one of the things that came back was they got a lot of confidence and motivation from working from me. So I tried to bring that into my branding and into my thinking. Have you had any feedback that makes you think, really? I hadn't noticed that. A little bit of a challenge in your businesses today. Just ask somebody, ask a customer or somebody that you work with, what do you think I'm best at? With the answers to this, it helps reveal your blind spot. And you can do a lot with this information. In fact, one of the things that I'm going to do at the end of this webinar, I'm going to send an email out with a list of 10 questions that you can use as a survey. And you can send these out to your customers. You can ask people, or you put it up on social media. You can alter the questions to make them fit your business. But the idea of the survey is to help you reveal those blind spots. And it's one of those things, when you look at big businesses, they do this all the time. What did you think of this purchase? What did we do well? What could we do better? Because they want to narrow that blind spot. I think as a small business, as a high street business, we can do that as well. And the cost for this is just a little bit of your time. The value is huge. And on the unknown, like this bit, a little bit of the discovery zone. What parts of your business still feel foggy or underdeveloped? Where do you feel stuck in a loop, unsure how to grow? What areas haven't you explored yet? Can you do partnerships, new services, new content? And the idea of this part of the Johari window is, again, to get you thinking about the future. What is it you need to help you? So if you've got, I know I'm moving quite quickly. Hopefully you've got a couple of ideas written down for this. And again, if you need extra help, please ask and we'll come to the Q&A at the end. Now, the idea of all of these exercises is to help us think about our businesses, where they are now, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are our blind spots, what are the things that we can show other people? Because with a little bit of work on this stuff, it can really, really help do that strategy and to grow sales and to grow our businesses in a way that feels right to us. Now, I realize we've done quite a lot of work. And one of the things that I believe in, or I come up with a concept called fun offsetting. Now, stick with me here. A lot of you are going to be going on holiday this summer, and lots of people, you know, when you fly, they say, oh, do you want to do some carbon offsetting? Do you want to plant a few trees to offset your carbon? So there's a concept I've come up with that I like to call fun offsetting. And it works on the idea of don't be boring. And the idea of fun offsetting is when you do these tasks or when you work on your own business, often it can be very tiring. So I like to think, okay, how can we do some fun offsetting? And the ideas that I have, well, you're going to see they're very Richard related, but the idea of this is you can do your own ideas. When you are working for yourself, you get to set the rules. So if you're going to do this work, like the Johari window, like the fog busting, like the mirror exercise, at the end of it, I want you to do some fun offsetting. So, suggestions. You can buy yourself a lovely pair of pink shoes. Highly recommend them. You can have a glass of champagne. I'm going to have a nice cup of tea. Or you can do 15 minutes of gaming, or you can buy yourself tickets to something cool. I hear Oasis are playing in London in the next few weeks. Hint, 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 hint. For me, when I'm working on my strategy or when I'm working on my business, and one of the things that I encourage people to do if they find this stuff hard is to do something fun afterwards. In the same way that you might plant some trees or donate some money to offset your carbon, how can you offset some of the things that you find difficult in your business or when you're doing these challenges? So come up with your own version of things that you can offset with. I'd love to know what you've come up with. Any questions and answers? and I'll come out of share screen.
Brilliant, Rich. That was a really good session, really interesting, and I think just listening to some of the concepts, I think as a business owner myself, I think it's really good to see that. So I've got a couple of questions, and then I think we'll look to see what comes through with regards to the Q&A. So I wanted to just jump in and ask a bit about. So you talked a bit about the idea of these blind spots,
Yeah.
and I think one of the areas that I think has been that I think resonates is the idea of follow up. Because I definitely, I've definitely found that, particularly the customer base that we target, it's not the first conversation that you have, it's not the second conversation you have, it's the conversation that you have after kind of sort of 10 or 15 contacts
The average
before
is
you
12 to
start to.
13 now, Jeff.
So what I've really interested to understand, and I think that this is also, I'd be really interested in your thoughts around kind of tailoring it towards a high street business, where potential customers can come in and then walk out the door and never come back. So what would you advise on a strategy for following up for businesses in general, but maybe also for a retail business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to send out with the email a list of 10 survey questions that you could potentially put up on social media. If you've got a database, you can email it to your clients. But I think there's something that you can do that's really, really simple. When somebody comes into your shop or your business, obviously you can thank them. You can just have a conversation with people, and that conversation be, "Oh, how did you know about us?" And I think it's one of those ones people always say, well, social media doesn't work, or I did some advertising, it didn't work. Well, how do you know? And I think there's that little bit where you need to talk to people, and it could be as simple as, how did you find us? Did you find everything you were looking for? Is there anything in here that you really liked? Is there anything that we can do better? And it could be 3 or 4 quick fire questions that get you that data. So obviously, if you can send out surveys and do all of that stuff via your social media or email list, fantastic. But I think, as a cafe or a high street business, is actually having a conversation with a customer. And I think you'd be surprised, especially with independents. I think people are willing to give a little bit more than they might do in a mainstream kind of, if you're in like a Boots or a WH Smith's and somebody comes up to you with a long survey, you'd be like, right, I need something in return. But as an independent, somebody says, oh, where did you discover us? I think you're more likely to respond.
Brilliant. And then just as a follow-on to that, so obviously you need somebody's contact details then to follow up if you're following up after they've come into your store or after you've engaged with them. What do you think are some good strategies around getting people to follow you whilst they're in store or capturing their contact details?
Yeah, interesting question. I was working with a tattooist last year in Corby, and that their work's incredible. And one of the things they were trying to do was get more reviews. And I said to them, well, have you asked people? And they're like, yeah, they normally forget to do it after they leave. We said, right, let's get a QR code. So you can buy these little plaques. And she's got a QR code plaque for her Google reviews. And she said, what was really funny story, she said, I put it on my chair, and while I was tattooing them, they left me a review. They always left me a positive review. I wonder if that's because I still had the needle in my hand, which I thought was quite a funny way of approaching it. What's really nice is you can get those QR codes for Google to get your Google reviews, but you can also get them for Instagram, TikTok, whatever social media channels you are. And I think there's that little bit where we live in a society where people want things instantly. And what's really interesting, QR codes during COVID became fashionable again. People understood them. So if you very quickly search up Instagram or Google QR code plaques, you can get them put up in the store. And I think it's a really quick and simple way to gain followers and to gain that interaction. And again, you can even do it for subscribe to our newsletter and then offer a 10-15% off your next purchase. And I know I'm a sucker for those things.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a really good idea actually, and certainly next time I'm in my dentist, I'll advise them to get a QR code on the ceiling so that as they're halfway through doing a procedure, then they can point up there and say, if you want me to carry on, I'll do the review. But I think that's a really practical way of being able to do that, and actually, I don't see QR codes in that many businesses. So I do go into quite a few independent businesses. So I think it's definitely something that can
It's a
do that.
really quick win. Really quick win. They're
Yeah,
not
I think so.
expensive.
Yeah. No, that's right. So just to any participants, we've put out a couple of polls. So just on that, just finding out whereabouts you heard about the webinar. Also just finding out a bit of information about what you found out about the webinar. So please respond to those. Second question, I think is probably a more general one, and it's definitely I think a concern for lots of participants that we work with across various business support programs, and that's that they can put a whole load of effort into social media, but they just don't generate engagement. They can put posts up there, and they get 2 or 3 likes, and those likes are their mum
Friends and family.
and their auntie, and that's it. And I think I'd probably like to thank my mum and my auntie for those 2 likes that I get on any of my posts. But I think it's that's a really important thing. So I'd be really interested. Is it about just keeping going? Is it about
Yeah.
that they need to improve their content? What's your kind of words of wisdom around that?
I think it's a bit of both. And I think that consistency in showing up is really important. I post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And because of that, I'm beginning to build up a following. What's really interesting is sometimes people are not ready to buy from you. And when they are ready, because you've been that consistent, they know that you're there. And I think that idea of nudge, 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 and this is something that a lot of the big brands do that we can learn from, is you might not be getting that interaction, but if people are seeing you that are your potential customers, then I think there's a real value in that. I also think when it comes to a lot of social media, I'm going to put my don't be boring sticker up again. There is that little bit where, okay, we're consumers of social media as well as producers. So what makes us stop the scroll? And I think sometimes we go into what I call boring mode. When we're looking at other people's social media, like what stops us? So I saw somebody this week complaining about a holiday they had as immediate stop, pause, give them some love. But then there's also some of those business ones. What makes me laugh? What makes me, where do I learn something? And you start thinking about, okay, what makes you stop the scroll? But earlier in the presentation, we were talking about unboxing. And I've worked with a brilliant guy in the States who's an influencer and content creator. And he talks about this idea and this concept to be the show, not the commercial. And I really like this. And I was working with somebody yesterday in Northants, and we looked at all their posts, and they're all adverts. Like, buy my product, it's great. Would you stop the scroll for that? Is what I asked them. And I said, why don't you show them you creating the product? Why don't you show you doing an unboxing? And I think that idea of documenting what you do rather than just being that advert makes your social media easier for you to do, i.e., be the show. But it also gives your audience a reason to stop. It gives your audience a reason to follow you. So to answer your question, be the show, not the commercial, show up consistently. And gradually over time, you begin to notice the difference. I certainly have. And businesses that I've been working with have seen that result as well.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think what's interesting, and maybe a way for people to at least think about what's going to be engaging is, I definitely have a low level addiction to social media, or death scrolling, as my niece calls it. But there are particular channels that I really like, and the channels that I really like generally will be they're kind of personality driven. They're quite personal. They're not necessarily professionally shot. They're
Yeah, me too.
they have a kind of amateur look to them for some of them, but they're just it's authentic, and I think that authenticity is definitely something that
And I think for an independent shop, there are some amazing independents that have done this really well. There's one in Kent called Braffman and Huxter. They've created a beautiful social media account, but all they're doing is showing products, why they bought it, how the product helps the person. And I think it's so much better than just putting a simple picture of a product going, buy my product. Boring. Why is this product special? Ah, well, it's handmade, it's made within 10 miles of the shop. And it's almost those conversations you'd have with somebody in the shop. Why aren't you having it on social media? And I think people have got sometimes have this block that, oh, it's social media, it has to be whatever. No, have the same conversation you'd have with a customer in the shop. Have the same conversations, but that whole idea of be the show, not the commercial, I always have that in the back of my mind when I'm creating content. Was also interesting now with that same mindset when I'm looking at people's content from a retailer perspective or a small business perspective. I'll challenge them. Would you stop and look at this? No. So why do you expect somebody else to? And I think that those two things, the consistency and the quality of what you do, you can influence that. It's your business. And again, we talked about that fun offsetting, and it was ironic that you said right at the very start, I don't like doing social media. So maybe, Jeff, when you do your social media, you need a bit of fun offsetting afterwards.
I absolutely agree with you. I like the idea of the champagne. Less so much the cup of tea, but so yeah,
Exactly right.
I will definitely be doing some fun offsetting as a result of that. So yeah, good idea on that one. Good. Okay, so I think we've definitely got one time for one more question, and so this has come up, and this I think is also it's quite a good point, because obviously we talked a bit about kind of maybe more the creative side of things, but running a business, one of the things is that you have got 101 things to do every single day, whether that's do something creative like social media, or whether it's doing something that is less creative like paying your tax, which is definitely so. What's your tips on helping somebody on how to prioritize what they're doing so that they are getting through all of the tasks, making impact, and also making sure that what they're doing is going to have the kind of biggest bang for the buck?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a model into the chat for everybody to help them with that. And there's something that I think is really, really important when it comes to prioritization, because I realized that for instance, the fog buster exercise that we did is a great thing to do, and it will really, really help. But what's really interesting is for a business to find the time to do it. And finding the time to do these things is often the challenge. So I think there's that little bit where, when it comes to prioritization, I often use something called the Eisenhower matrix. And what I like about it is it splits it into, okay, what can you outsource? What can you do yourself? And I'm going to find it and pull it up here because it helps me prioritize. And it's a really, really simple way of doing it. Let me find it. Eisenhower matrix prioritization. Here we go. Very, very simple. Let me just drop that there. And what it is about what do you need to do first and what takes more time to do. And I will bring it up and make it full screen here. So urgent and important, you need to do it now. Not urgent, but important, you need to schedule some time to do it. urgent but not important, you need to delegate it. Who can do this for you? Not urgent, not important. Should you be doing it at all? Delete it. And as much as I'd like to delete paying my tax, I do need to do that today. But there is that little bit where just using this, you can it's a very simple tool. And again, it's out of my coaching manual. But what I love about it is it helps me prioritize. And it's really, really simple because reality is it's coming towards the end of the month. You are going to have to pay your team. That is urgent and important. And then, like I said, are the things that you can delegate, because when you delegate to other people, that gives you the time to go and focus on things like strategy, sorting out those really difficult customers. So for me, it's about thinking about things, how urgent, how important, and what can I delegate, do, decide, and my favorite, delete. And I'll put that in the chat for people.
Brilliant. Okay, super. Now, I think that's really, really interesting. I think I have definitely heard of effective entrepreneurs who've talked about it's not kind of the things that they plan to do. It's the things that they don't do, which actually is what makes them effective. And I did hear of one business. One of the tech founders that used to put in on his emails, instead of having a signature, he just used to have a signature that looked like it had come from his phone. So it said something along the lines of sent using my Samsung Android phone. And so that meant that all the emails that he sent were just very short one-liners, and people then assumed it was coming from his phone, and so therefore that kept his
There's another one I heard. I think it was probably Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos said they only make 30 decisions a day. So they have somebody that chooses their food, somebody that chooses their clothes, because what they want to do is make less and better decisions. I think what's really interesting as a business owner, we all know how many different decisions and how many different hats we need to wear. And I think using something like the Eisenhower matrix, what can we delegate and what can we delete? How can we make better decisions? And I think we have so much pressure on us. That's when people get to that overwhelm. So I always say to them, okay, what can you delete? What can you get rid of so you do less and better? And that focus helps people really improve and work on their businesses. And I like the idea of those short emails. That's brilliant.
Brilliant. Right, Rich. Well, thanks so much indeed. So I think for anyone that is interested in kind of a bit of business therapy, or really more generally just reviewing their business, I think Rich is a really experienced coach, and so we would encourage you to do a couple of things. So Richard's email address and contact details will be sent out. So it's richard@richsolutions.com, and his website's got loads of really interesting content. Also, you'll be able to find him on LinkedIn and on Instagram, and you'll be able to see some of the social media that he's doing, and you'll be able to see some of the content that he's putting out, which I think is some really inspirational stuff. So please follow him. Please get in contact. If you've got any questions, you can either direct them to us, so you can contact us at hello@nnbusiness.co.uk, or we are on all of the socials as well. You can contact us through the website nnbusiness.co.uk, so please also just follow the Eventbrite channel, so you'll see any events that are coming up, and it will be an opportunity for you to find out more information. Really big thank you for attending. Really big thank you to Rich for presenting, and we will look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Thank you.